Welcome and thank you for standing by. At this time, all participants are in listen-only mode. During the Q&A session, if you'd like to ask a question, you may press star 1 on your phone. Today's call is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. I'll now turn the call over to Julie Sandler. Thank you. You may begin.
Thank you. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. We're here to talk about the 2023 Bank Enterprise Award Program and the application. My name is Julie Sandler, and I'm the Acting Program Manager. I'm joined today by my colleagues Michael Fulton and Amy Apitz, and we're going to walk you through the BEA program and the 2023 BEA program application. Next slide. So we're very excited for this funding round and pleased to announce the availability of up to $70 million in funds for this year's awards. This is a double funding round, which includes 2022 and 2023 appropriated funds. We expect that the fiscal year 2024 funding round will resume on an annual schedule. By participating in this webinar, we hope to provide you with some information that will be useful when completing your BEA program application. So we'll walk you through the program, a bit about the application process, some important updates to the application and the process, as well as we want to open the line for questions. So feel free to use the Q&A box, and there will be a session at the end for you kind of to ask questions. Please note this webinar is intended to complement other sources we've made available to support you should you decide to apply for fiscal year 2023 BEA Program Award. The other key materials that you should review include the program regulations, the Notice of Available Funding, the NOFA, the BEA Program Application Guidance, and then the Supplemental Guidance. And these materials can be found on our CDFI Funds website. And now I will hand it over to Mike to give you an overview of the program.
Perfect. Thank you, Julie. And hi, everybody. So I'm Michael Fulton, as Julie just said, and I'm a management and program analyst with the CDFI Fund. So I would like to thank everybody before beginning just for everybody's time, and I'll just get started with my slides right now. So during my section of the webinar, I'll be providing an overview of the BEA program, outline qualified BEA program activities, go over the award calculation method, and also discuss eligible uses of the award. So first, let's begin with what is the BEA program. So the BEA program is a performance-based grant program that was created in 1991 through the Bank Enterprise Act, then subsequently through the Community Development Banking and Financial Institutions Act of 1994. BEA program awards are given to FDIC-insured, federally regulated depository institutions. And in order to obtain an award, applicants must demonstrate increased investments in certified community development financial institutions, and this is what we call CDFIs, or they must demonstrate increases in their own lending, investing, or service-related activities in BEA-eligible distressed communities. These awards are retrospective in nature, which means backwards-looking, with award amounts calculated as a percentage of the increase in BEA-qualified activities from the baseline period to the assessment period. Next slide. Okay, so looking historically, since 1996, the BEA program has awarded over $570 million in awards over a period of 26 rounds. And looking specifically at the period from 2016 to 2021, more than 90% of the BEA program award recipients were FDIC-insured institutions that are defined as either small or intermediate banks based on FFIEC's Community Reinvestment Act asset size threshold. And over the same period, so 2016 to 2020, BEA program award recipients increased investments, lending, and technical assistance to CDFIs by over $280 million. They increased lending and direct investments into distressed communities by over $3.2 billion. And lastly, they increased financial services in distressed communities by approximately $257 million. Next slide. Okay, so moving on to BEA qualified activities. So what activities would qualify for a BEA program award? The BEA program has 3 different categories for qualified activities. They are CDFI-related activities, distressed community financing activities, and I'll call these DCFAs throughout the webinar, and lastly, service activities. So we'll start first with the CDFI-related activities. These activities include CDFI equity and or equity-like loans for example, equity investments, equity-like loans, and grants, and also CDFI support activities like deposit shares, loans, and technical assistance. And here it's important to note that a certified CDFI that receives CDFI-related activities from an applicant, again, like equity investments, equity-like loans, etc., is considered a CDFI partner. And CDFI partners must be integrally involved in a BEA stressed community as defined by the 2023 NOFA and the BEA interim rule. And the next qualified activity includes distressed community financing activities, and again, DCFAs, to businesses and residents located in distressed communities. These activities are broken into two categories, consumer loans and commercial loans and investments. So consumer loans can include affordable housing, education loans, home improvement loans, and small dollar consumer loans, while commercial loans and investments may include affordable housing development loans, commercial real estate loans, and also small business loans. So next slide. So moving on to the last qualified activity, service activities. Service activities provide financial services to the residents of distressed communities. Some examples of these activities may include providing checking or saving account deposits for customers, community services like financial counseling, providing financial services, and also targeted saving and investment products like CDs and mutual funds. And here, please note that the definitions of all BEA qualified activities can be found in the glossary section of the 2023 BEA program supplemental guidance and also the interim rule, which are posted on the BEA page of the CDFI Fund's public website. Next slide. So on this slide, I'd like to cover the requirements in order to be considered a distressed community by the BEA program standards. And these requirements have two parts which need to be considered in order to be defined as a distressed community. And they are, firstly, economic requirements, and the second requirement is geographic requirements. So we'll start first with the economic requirements, and these state that at least 30% of the population is living in poverty, and also that the unemployment rate is at least 1.5 times the national unemployment rate average. So both of these requirements must be met in order to meet the economic requirement. And secondly, the geographic requirements of these communities must include at least one of the three following options. So they either must be the total population is at least 4,000 if near a metropolitan statistical area or an MSA that has a population of 50,000 or greater, or the community has a population of at least 1,000 if no portion of the community is located near an MSA, or lastly, the community is located within an Indian reservation. And it's important to note that census tracts may meet these requirements either individually or collectively when aggregated with contiguous census tracts. And for more information on definitions and specific requirements, we provided a link to the BEA program's August 2016 interim rule, which is located at the bottom of this slide. So the hyperlink is at the bottom of this slide. Okay, next slide. Okay, so for this slide, I'll be covering the BEA program's funding and prioritization of awards. So the three primary factors affecting the calculation of a BEA program award includes the type of qualified BEA activity category, the CDFI certification status, and also the institution's asset size. So going down the list, we'll start with the qualified activities. So there are three qualified activities, like we stated before, that are eligible for BEA program awards. In order to be, in order of the BEA program's priority of funding, CDFI-related activities are first, then distressed community financing activities, and lastly, service activities. And it's important to note that the CDFI fund has the authority to cap the total dollars awarded in the DCFA category, so applicants with eligible service activities may be awarded as well. And next is the CDFI status. So being a certified CDFI does have several benefits when applying to the BEA program. Firstly, certified CDFIs are prioritized over non-certified CDFIs in each of the three previously mentioned qualified activities. And additionally, certified certified CDFI awards are calculated using a higher award percentage factor for most of the qualified activities. And I'll be demonstrating this further on the next slide. But before moving on to the next slide, I lastly want to discuss asset size. And asset size does affect the BEA program award size. So small banks receive the highest priority factor of 5, followed by intermediate banks at a priority factor of 3, ending with large banks that receive a factor of 1. And for asset sizes of small, intermediate, small, and large banks, they are defined in the Community Reinvestment Act. And this is defined as a small bank is being referred to as a bank that as of December 31st of either of the prior 2 calendar years had assets of less than $1.384 billion. For intermediate small banks, these are banks with assets of at least $346 million as of December 31st for both of the prior 2 calendar years, and less than $1.384 billion as of December 31st for either of the prior 2 calendar years. And simply for large banks, these are banks with assets of at least $1.384 billion as of December 31st of both of the prior 2 calendar years. Okay. Next slide. Okay, so here we can see the award calculation formula for BEA program awards. And I'll just cover one quick example, but a couple tips to point out while going through this are that you should be reading this from going left to right, starting with what qualified activity you are reporting on, then moving on to whether the institution is a certified CDFI or not, and then finishing with the organization's asset size. Another helpful tip to read this calculation chart is to follow the same color across depending on which qualified activity you're calculating for. So for example, CDFI-related activities for equity and equity-like loans are calculated using boxes in red, while consumer DCFA activities are calculated using boxes in blue. So let's just go through one quick example. And for this example, let's say you are a certified CDFI with an intermediate asset size reporting on DCFA commercial activities. So here we'll start first by determining the total dollar increase from the baseline period to the assessment period for this qualified activity. Then we'll take that dollar figure and multiply by 9% since you are a certified CDFI. And if you were a non-certified CDFI, this dollar figure would instead be multiplied by only 3%. And then lastly, you multiply that figure by the intermediate asset size priority factor of 3. And then once you multiply all these amounts, this will total your estimated award amount. Next slide. Okay, so for my last slide, I would like to cover a couple more important items concerning the BEA program. All BEA program awards must be reinvested in additional BEA eligible activities within a performance period of approximately 1 year. Additionally, applicants are required to indicate in the application which qualified activities they intend to use the award proceeds for, and it's important to note that only 15% of the award proceeds may be used for direct administrative expenses. Next, applicants are required to indicate the minimum and maximum percentage of the award proceeds that they will commit into investing in persistent poverty counties, or PPCs. And for more information concerning PPCs, please refer to the NOFA and ensure that you're utilizing the American Community Surveys, or ACS's 2016 through 2020 data set. And all award recipients are required to report on the actual uses of the award proceeds back to the CDFI fund. And the last item that I'd like to address is that these reports are due 90 days from the end of the performance period as specified in each of the awardees' award agreement. So with that, I would like to thank everybody for their time, and I'll now pass it over to my colleague, Amy.
Thank you, Mike. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. And I'm going to go over the application process. As Julie had mentioned at the beginning, we have approximately $70 million in available funding for this year. And the baseline period and the assessment period, you'll notice that for those who have applied before, you'll notice that is different. And Julie will go over that more when she gives the updates. The baseline period is January 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021. And the assessment period, as you can see, July 1, 2021 through December 31st, 2022. There's 2 parts for applying for the BEA grant. That requires two different systems that you'll be accessing. The first one is grants.gov, and the second one is the BEA program AMIS, is when you'll submit your application. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to go over eligibility. For applicants, you must be FDIC insured at the first day of the baseline period, which is, again, is January 1st, 2020, and maintain the status at the time of the application to be considered eligible for a BEA award. And I apologize if I'm talking a little bit too fast, but this will be posted, and FAQs are on our public website and all the material that you need. So I'll try to slow down a little bit. The holding companies, if you're a holding company, you aren't eligible to apply for a BEA award. If you're a certified CDFA applicant, those are insured depository institutions that are certified as the publication date of the BEA NOFA in the Federal Register, or have submitted a certification application by September 30th, 2022, and maintains or receives its status as a certified CDFI at the time that BEA awards are announced. For CDFI partners, you must have been certified as a CDFI when investment or support was received during the assessment period of July 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2022. And they must be integrally involved in a BEA distressed community if CDFI support activities were received. And again, all of these definitions, integrally involved, those are defined both in the application and in the NOFA. Next slide, please. The application process. This part is important, and the dates are important. The first part is through grants.gov, where you will submit an SF-424 by May 2nd, 2023 by 11:59 Eastern Time. And we've received several questions from folks that the submission of the SF-424, the instructions, they did not have a date in there, so I'll give that to you now, and we've got that in our FAQs as well. So let me just tell you, when you're doing these, for 14A, the date should be 9/1/2023, and for 14B, the date should be 9/30/2024. These dates are estimates, and if you are awarded the specific dates, will be in your assistance agreement. The dates have been provided in the supplemental guidance and the FAQs, and so we apologize that we didn't get that out immediately, but we got that updated as soon as we could. And also another thing, when you do your grants.gov, make sure that all the information, your UEI, EIN, matches with the information in AMIS. Next slide, please. So submitting your application in AMIS. The deadline is June 1st, 2023 by 5 p.m. It's not June 21st, 2023 by midnight. Some folks have made a mistake, and they have June 1st in their mind, and they think it's by midnight. Please don't make that mistake, because we hate to see that happen to anyone. And as we've always suggested, do it early. For example, I was in grants.gov yesterday just looking at their site, and they had a notice up that it was down for some users. So you just never know what's going to happen, and we can't emphasize enough that you get everything submitted well before the deadline, a couple of days at least. And when you submit your BA application through AMIS, you'll attach the validated SF-424 that you've already done in grants.gov, signed by the authorized representative. And as far as your BEA transactions, they are due by May 30th, 2023. My apologies, by 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Next slide, please. So AMIS, I imagine most of you are familiar with it. It's a business-wide business system that we use to communicate to our funders and for you guys to communicate to us. An AMIS account is required in order to apply for a BEA award, and the link provided in this slide will take you to the creating and navigating the AMIS system. The BEA program electronic application is currently available and open in AMIS. when you go to our public website, I'm just going to throw this out there before I'm done with my presentation. When you go to our public website and you go on programs and hit on the BEA program, and if you scroll down and apply, and there's numbers there. If you hit number 1, all the supporting documents, materials for the application are there, the NOFA, the supplemental guidance. And so that's a good way to get any information that you might need. Next slide, please. And so this is just important reminders about personal identifiable information. And the CDFI fund does not collect and will not accept any PII in AMIS. That has to do with Social Security numbers or anything that is traceable to an individual. So it's, make sure that when you're submitting anything that you redact any PII information. For example, a transaction, if there's PII information in them, that transaction will be deleted and will be considered ineligible. There is, as you can see at the note at the bottom, the supplemental guidance and the FAQs give you examples of what is PII and what is appropriate and not appropriate to redact. And I believe I'm going to, next slide, please. I think Julie's up next. Yes, she is. And Julie will return with some updates and any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Mike. So I want to talk about the updates to the program that are important, especially for many of you veterans who have applied before. So first, the big change is the 18-month assessment period. That's been addressed. We did this to account for the use of the double funding round, and also want to get on track for future funding rounds. So as stated, it's 18 months starting January 1st, 2020, ending June 30th, 2021, and then the assessment period is 18 months starting July 1st, 21, ended at the end of December 2022. You're also going to notice a new application format. So this will be familiar to those who have applied for CDFI programs such as ERP, RRP, CDFI program, more. The questions are the same. What we request is the same as in previous years. However, there is a change to the functionality, which we hope is a positive thing, and it was influenced by great feedback that we've received from the industry. And you will now be able to submit your transactions via one CSV file. So there's a CSV file you'll be able to access from the AMIS application, complete that, and then upload it. And the verifications and the same checks that were there previously kind of translate when you upload your transactions. So that's next slide. So the second key update is the use of census data as it relates to BEA program eligibility, so for qualified activity. So this is a transition year. So applicants may use the legacy 2011 to 2015, that's what we've been using in the past, or the updated 2016 to 2020 American Community Survey census data. This is provided by the CDFI fund, so and in order to determine whether the qualified activities occurred in distressed communities during the baseline period and assessment period. Both sets of data are available in SIMS as well as tabular Excel format on our website, and you can access that information through our application guidance. So future applicants are advised that a full transition to the updated BEA eligibility data will take place during the fiscal year 2024 program funding round, so the 2015 data set will not be available next year. Next slide. I did want to clarify, I don't think this is going to be a bit of a challenge, but with persistent poverty PPC, persistent poverty counties PPCs, many applicants elect to have a commitment. When you're committing to deploy a certain amount of your ward in a PPC area county, it should be eligible per the 2016 to 2020 data. So because PPC is forward-looking and per our regulations, you will only be able to use PPCs eligible to 2016 to 2020. Information to verify is found in SIMS. There isn't significant changes between the two data sets, but we do encourage and require you, because that is your requirement per your assistance agreement if you are awarded that it's a PPC per the 2016-2020 data set. Next slide. Quick update on eligibility. This hasn't really changed from prior years, but the CDFI BEA program applicants may not receive an award that have received a CDFI program FA award within the 12 months prior to the award announcement. So the award announcement was made in February. And they also may not receive an award if they ever received an assistance under the CDFI program or other federal program for the same activities for which it is seeking a 23 BEA program award. Lastly, this is the first year actually that the BEA program applicants must use a UEI. UEI replace DUNS, and so you should ensure that your EIN and UEI is accurate across grants.gov, AMIS, and SAM.gov, and if you don't have a UEI, you should register one at SAM.gov as soon as possible. And then I also want to highlight and clarify, and some of this will be further clarified in FAQs that will be published. So this year, there's no option for subsequent payments, but we will have FAQs forthcoming for those loans that are closed at the end of the assessment period and then subsequently dispersed to be able to count as disbursements. But I want to clarify, like, it will be until the end of the application period, so June 1st, 2023. So if you close a loan December 31, 2022, you still have the opportunity to disperse and receive an award based on that, which is consistent as in prior years and typically what most people receive their awards based on. Next slide. This is our contact information. Depending on your question, these are the resources you can reach out for. CDFI Fund doesn't manage grants.gov or SAM.gov, so if you have questions, you need to reach out to those respective websites. And we really encourage you, if you have questions, to have a service request. We're here for you. We want to answer your questions. It's a new application. There are some new things. It's a little different. So if you have a question, please submit a service request, and we will respond to you as soon as we can. And the next slide. So these are the key important dates per the NOFA. So we announced the round opening March 31st, 2023. The SF-424, this is the first upcoming deadline, is May 2nd, again at midnight Eastern Time. We'll also want you to make sure your registered correct information is in AMIS on May 2nd as well. And then the last day for help desk questions to the program team as well as BEA transactions is 2 days before the deadline, May 30th. And then for IT issues as well as submitting your BEA program application in AMIS is June 1st, 2023 at 5 p.m. And with that, move to the next slide. I want to open the line up for questions. Operator.
Thank you. If you would like to ask a question, please press *1. You will be prompted to record your first and your last name. Please unmute your phone when recording your name, and to withdraw your question, press *2. Once again, to ask a question, please press *1. One moment.
And while the operator is kind of gathering the questions, I did want to address a few things. So we have, hopefully early next week, we'll be publishing updated FAQs, which kind of resolve and clarify the issue related to the SF-424, kind of the issue, there was a bit of a clarification that needed to be added about disbursements after the assessment period. So, and any more questions maybe perhaps that we received today or over the next week. So we will be publishing those. We will also be posting an AMIS demo just so you can see kind of how to move through the application specifically this year because of the CSV file. So those are in the next week or so, you should anticipate it, and we'll, especially when the FAQs are announced, we will send a Gov delivery notice that they're coming. So a few questions, see from Kimberly about after completing grants.gov and going to AMIS, a message came up that CDFI must be certified by the NOFA publication date. That is incorrect. I believe that might be just an error, and if you try to enter back in, but please submit a service request so I can look into this further. But no, you do not have to be a certified CDFI to apply. We have applicants who have submitted certification applications we will review those. So even if your certification status is pending and then you become certified before the award announcement date, we have a process to review and ensure you'll get the priority points if necessary. But you do not have to be a certified CDFI to apply to the BEA program, and Kimberly, just submit a service request, and I'll kind of look into that to make sure there's not an issue.
We do have some phone questions when you're ready.
Okay, yep.
Everett White, your line is open.
Hey, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi, Everett.
Hey, first, thank you very much for the allowing the bulk upload for the data entry. That is much appreciated. I've got two quick questions. I think one is I wanted to get clarification on the disbursement issue you talked about, and it may be in the FAQ, but did I hear you say that you would be allowed to, through the date that applications are due, June 1, if a loan was originated at the end of the assessment period, for example, and was fully dispersed prior to the application deadline, that would be okay?
Yes. And
okay,
this will be clarified in the supplemental guidance.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the second question was about the asset size for purposes of the priority factor. I think the NOFA says as of 12/31/2022, but I thought I heard that maybe you had to have that to meet the asset size requirements for 2021 and 2022. But I could have misheard that.
Yeah, refer to what the NOFA has stated. That box in the NOFA is accurate. I don't have it right in front of me.
Okay.
Any of my colleagues can clarify. But yes, what the NOFA is, Mike kind of walks through the parameters for that, yeah.
Perfect. And then last question, and I appreciate your patience with me. On the 18-month baseline and assessment periods, are you contemplating any sort of either change to that or accommodation for applicants who may have, for example, purchased CDs in the first half of 2021, thinking that was going to count towards their assessment period, but now it's actually going to count towards their baseline period? Same thing with seasonal lending.
Yes. So this is something we will address in our FAQs, yes.
Okay, great.
But the 18-month period is there's not going to be a change to that. It's the 18-month period, but yes.
Okay.
This will be included. Really good questions. Thank you for asking them.
No, thank y'all. And those are all my questions. I appreciate it.
Good, great.
As a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, please press star 1. Our next question comes from Don Rife. Your line is open.
Hey, Julie. This is, I have a service request that's been pending since the 4th of April about an application that we tried to open that wasn't working. I'm wondering if I can give you the service request number or...
Yeah, so it's sent to IT, perhaps.
It was program associated to it with BEA.
Okay.
But I have not gotten a single comment.
Okay.
It was assigned to system administrator.
Okay, yeah, please send me, we can write that down and I'll look into that for you.
Okay. The service request number is 56741.
Mm-hmm.
And then my second question was just what we had talked about offline about how the system knows which data set is being used.
Yeah, and so we'll clarify that. That's another good question. That will be clarified in the FAQs. So that's included as well. The data sets they're hard to compare because there's 10,000 more census tracts in 2020. So even if you have the same interest, you're going to have a different census tract possibly. So I just wanted to clarify that if people get confused about when they're kind of validating themselves prior to it. But yes, we will clarify this in the FAQs.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Julie.
We do have another question. One moment. Our next question comes from Tanner Alvarez. Your line is open.
Hi, good afternoon. Two questions. Number one, will you be sharing the slides? Because there are a couple of links and whatnot that I couldn't copy them down.
Yes, we will share the slides, and the audio from this webinar will be shared as well on our website.
Okay, so CDFI, sorry, which website should we go to? This is about
CDFI Funds BEA, and it will be kind of where you click the link to register, unless you came through GovDelivery. But if you go to the BEA program, apply, it has the date of this webinar and a link to open this webinar, but we'll also have a link to access the recording.
Okay, good. And then the second one is there a list of the distressed areas throughout the country instead of trying to calculate?
Yes, we have a list. So there's a couple different ways for you to verify. There is like an Excel format on our website, and so you can actually, the link, I believe, the easiest way to get to the link where I typically get through it is through the application guidance. So that has both data sets there. And you can also use SIMS as a tool. And so we have a guide to kind of walk you through how to use SIMS. And so for the census tract. So there's two ways prior to submitting. We also validate in the application to get a sense of your transactions. But if you want to look by census tract, you can use the tabular data. If you want to look through address, SIMS is available as well as the application.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
At this time, I'm showing no further questions.
Hey, Robert Wayne, I see a question from you. We definitely encourage you to kind of write out your service, submit a service request, and you can include plenty of questions. And if we need to have any follow-up, that's where we can work with you on. So please, the first step would be submitting a service request with your questions. Any other questions? So give it another minute. So next week, I think the key is Tuesday, later this week, next week, I would encourage everyone to refer back to the website as there will be updated FAQs. This presentation will be on the website, as well as hopefully our AMIS demo, if anyone wants to look into that. And just really keep in mind, May 2nd, big day, submit your SF424. You cannot submit an AMIS application if you do not submit an SF424. You can have it's just an estimated amount of how much you're planning on requesting. It can change. So encourage you to kind of work on your SF424, updating all of your EIN and UAI across all of those systems, and then kind of work through the application. Operator, are there any more questions?
I am showing no questions.
Okay, well, thank you. We have another webinar after the SF424 deadline. So we anticipate more people will have some questions about a bit more about the application process. So that is May 9th. That is on our website for accessing it. So if you have more questions and they're not getting answered via service request, or you just want to hear what other people are asking, we have another public webinar for you all to attend. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your participation. Participants, you may disconnect at this time.